All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMAUnhinged. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host Oscar Silva, and we've got a lot to recover and talk about in this episode. We missed out last week with the UFC 279. Both of us were feeling very, very under the weather, and now here we are. We're here to recap it, and luckily, we did not preview it because the whole card changed. Well, the main card changed.
Yeah, 100%. The deck was shuffled, and I believe it was in a favorable manner for the fans. We did not get Nate Diaz getting smashed in the main event. Instead, we had two fan favorites duke it out in the main event, and we had Nate Diaz get a very stylish submission at 2 minutes and 9 seconds into the round. Very, very crazy event, very crazy fight week. I knew it was going to be wild, but not that wild. We had a backstage brawl happen backstage at the press conference, ended up canceling the press conference altogether. And in the end, we had Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz, Hamza Chimaev versus Kevin Holland, and Daniel Rodriguez versus Li Jingliang. And of course, Li Jingliang got the short end of the stick in countless ways. But I say we start with the main event at welterweight, one of the few non-title main events just because of the names involved. Nate Diaz wins via guillotine choke in the fourth round against Tony Ferguson. This was a very unusual fight. It's a shame we didn't get to see this fight like 6-8 years ago when they were in their primes, but nonetheless, we still had fun with this one. Nate Diaz was fooling around the whole fight. So in round one, I actually scored that for Tony Ferguson. I believe he was landing the more effective shots. He was starting to target Nate Diaz's leg, and Nate Diaz surprisingly was walking backward more than usual. He had some respect for Tony, but that respect faded quite quickly there. And eventually in rounds 2 and 3, we started to see Nate Diaz show how unthreatened he is by Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson not exactly a knockout artist at this point in his career. So Nate Diaz starts going for strolls. He starts taking early breaks, and he's not respecting the power that's coming from Tony. Tony, even though his leg gets busted wide open, it's bleeding all over the place, and it definitely affected his mobility. He's still kicking like crazy, but it's not really hurting Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz, on the other hand, is landing a lot more strikes to the head of Tony Ferguson. And as the fight went on, Tony Ferguson began to get more bothered by the strikes he started getting hit with there. And eventually, once we get to the fourth round, the judges have the fight scored 30-27 in favor of Nate Diaz. So Tony Ferguson was about to lose the decision. Did he not decide to take the fight to the ground? I thought the jiu-jitsu would cancel itself out, but it looks like Nate Diaz's jiu-jitsu is better at this point in his career. And Tony Ferguson succumbed to that guillotine. Very unfortunate. Obviously, I don't think that the prime Tony Ferguson would have lost in that manner at all. And I'll be honest, he did not look good at all in this fight. He said he was back afterwards, but I don't want to see this guy fight a ranked fighter again. I think had he fought the Leech, he would have gotten brutally knocked out. For Nate Diaz, he was doing all wrestling in the camp, so his striking didn't look all that sharp either. But I'm sure once he starts working on it, he'll look better. But for me, Tony Ferguson, as a fan, I just got to admit he's very far away from his prime days.
Yeah, we've seen the best of Tony Ferguson, and it's quite a shame. Obviously, what we're witnessing now, 5 back-to-back losses for Tony Ferguson. It's not looking great. The move up to 170 was probably to freshen things, get a new look. Obviously, return back to his base. Starting at 170, just to see how he gets on. But obviously, fighting Nathan Diaz, in his first fight back, he was scheduled to fight the Leech, and I thought that was a even worse fight for him. But I thought the Nathan Diaz fight was a fight that he could win. And obviously, once again, I feel like this is another story of Tony Ferguson showing us that he's just not his old self. If this was 5-6 years ago, I think Tony Ferguson can maybe not have his way, but look good in this fight and win the fight comfortably.
Yeah, it's just a shame. I actually did pick Tony Ferguson to win this by decision. I thought we were definitely going to see a decision because both guys are super durable. And Tony Ferguson had never been submitted in the UFC. Nate Diaz, I don't think has been submitted in the UFC either. So I thought we were going to see a 5 round war. That was not the case. And Tony Ferguson had no answer for that guillotine as soon as locked in. Yeah, Tony Ferguson actually in the past when he fought Charles Oliveira, he got put in that armbar and got his arm I believe he had something dislocated there, and there was a pop, and he did not tap. So this definitely shows that maybe the fighting spirit is down a little in Tony. It's real sad to see. I think Tony Ferguson, should he stick around, will now be in like the spot that Cowboy, Matt Brown, Carlos Condit was in recently. Yeah, he's now in that spot where he's just going to be taking fun fights, not anything that would put him in title talks.
Absolutely agree. I think the Matt Brown fights, the legendary fights that we wanted to see Tony Ferguson, 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Them fights now, as you were talking about, definitely make sense for Tony Ferguson. Well, it was a massive mix-up. Nathan Diaz was scheduled to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Tony Ferguson scheduled to fight Li Jiang, and obviously now we got them in the main event. I thought it was, even though we had a lot of, the malarkey, the drama, this made me more excited for the main event. This made me it got me. I thought this fight made sense. I thought they were throwing Nathan Diaz in a little bit with the Khamzat Chimaev fight, and I thought this one should have went down anyway. And I feel like we got what we wanted in the end.
Yeah, we did in a way. Yeah, I thought it was unreal that these two guys were fighting each other on a day's notice after I believe the fans kind of gave up on this fight after a while because they were clamoring for a long time. We knew it would have been it would have been very fun, very bloody. How shocking was it for Nate Diaz to not walk away with a cut and for Tony Ferguson to be the one walking away with a cut? It was very strange. It shows the decline in Tony Ferguson, but I don't want to rag on Tony Ferguson much longer. I say we move on to that co-main event.
Absolutely agree, and it was a fantastic co-main event. Khamzat Chimaev proving once again how great he is. As you can see there, a strike wasn't even thrown from Kevin Owens. I think that's the fourth time officially inside the UFC Khamzat Chimaev has won without his opponent winning throwing a strike, actually landing a strike. Sorry.
Yeah, Khamzat Chimaev got an A+ on this fight. He did it effortlessly, pretty much. So he faked the glove touch, went for the takedown. Kevin Holland started going for a ton of Granby rolls, and eventually he found himself in a Darce choke. And Holland tried to stay in there, but the squeeze was so tight on Khamzat. It's so impressive that Khamzat, who's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, is out here tapping black belts this effortlessly less than 3 minutes into the fight. This guy's an absolute monster. We've never seen anything like him. Nobody has been able to have 4 fights where he doesn't get touched, really. It's wild what he's been able to do with just a couple of years of MMA training, and we are for sure looking at a future champion, whether if it's at a welterweight or middleweight. He's a threat, and I think he can fight in either division for the belt sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we were talking about before we went live on there. We said if he moves up, he's got options. He's got Paulo Costa. He's got Marvin Vettori. He said he didn't want to fight Robert Whittaker because he likes the guy and he likes his style.
Yeah, I think that Robert Whittaker fight is not very favorable towards him. Whittaker looked incredible against Marvin Vettori, and he showed an ability to stay away from the grappling. And for Khamzat, it's all about, can he make 170 consistently, because this guy missed weight by 7.5 pounds. Had the UFC not had other people around that weight available, Khamzat Chimaev may have gotten severely fined or something, or maybe even suspended by the UFC or something. The UFC does not like when you miss weight, but Khamzat Chimaev has that Dana White privilege. He's very special. He's very respected. So they shuffle things around, and we're kind of forgetting about the weight miss here. And it was kind of a blessing at his size, but he has got to make weight if he wants to stick around at welterweight, because at welterweight, the logical option is Colby Covington, and I think he beats Colby Covington, and he puts himself in line to face the winner of Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, the trilogy. But right now, I say he should be fighting at middleweight because the doctor stopped him from continuing to cut weight down to 170. So at middleweight, as we said, he's got a lot of great options, but he's beefing seriously with Paulo Costa. That was one of the people that was involved in that backstage scuffle at the press conference. So I say he fights Paulo Costa if he's going to middleweight.
Absolutely. And going back to, the weight, and obviously you're talking about a massive point. Aaron Warney brought up a point yesterday saying it was crazy that he originally missed weight for the main event. And obviously because he fought Kevin Holland in that 180 catch weight, he didn't get fined whatsoever. And I thought that was a little bit disrespectful and wrong towards the other athletes on the card.
Yeah, he got a raise. Dana White denies anybody got a raise, but all fighters had to change their opponent, so they had to be compensated in order to take those fights. And for Kevin Holland, this guy legit fought maybe the worst matchup for him in the whole UFC. So you got to respect him for taking it.
Absolutely agree. And then we talk about Hamza Chimaev getting a short notice opponent against Kevin Holland. They both agreed to it. And as we talk about, we've got to credit Kevin Holland. Even though he lost, I feel like his stock still goes up because obviously he stepped in. Well, he accepted the challenge in less than 24 hours notice. So you got to respect the balls on Kevin Holland. And then moving over to Ji Liang versus Daniel Rodriguez. You want to talk about getting the short end of the story. You talked about it earlier. Li Jiang did not get any luck this week.
Yeah, so I'll run you through what happened to our boy, the Leech. So heading into the weigh-ins, he invests in a very beautiful suit, and Tony Ferguson and Danny Rodriguez are on the stage answering questions. They go to the back. Dana White says, bring out the next two, referring to Tony and Lee. And Lee walks out with his translator and his suit, and he gets turned right back around, and he does not get to show off the suit. And then we have the Hamzat weight miss, and he's set to fight Tony Ferguson, the former interim lightweight champion. Instead, he's fighting Daniel Rodriguez, who has never fought a ranked opponent, not really a big name, and now he's not even in the co-main event. So he ends up fighting Daniel Rodriguez. And in this fight, he does get outstruck, but I felt he was the guy doing a little more damage. It's very debatable who won each and every round, but for me, I thought there was an argument that Lee won every round of this fight. I scored round 1 for D-Rod, I scored round 2 for Li Jingliang, and I scored round 3 for Li Jingliang. I ended up giving the fight to Li Jingliang, and after the fight, he raises D-Rod's arm, signifying that, he bested D-Rod, but he's still, a good opponent. And honestly, Daniel Rodriguez looked kind of defeated to me while they were reading the scorecards. He had his little Monster Energy can with him, kind of wasn't looking too triumphant. And Li Jingliang gets kind of robbed, in my opinion. And then on the MMA Hour, he's showing off his robbed tank top. And not only was he robbed of this win, he was number 14 going in. And D-Rod takes his spot, and he gets kicked out of the welterweight rankings.
Yep, a whole week, Li Jiang didn't have any luck in the scorecards, the judges, whatever. They weren't on his side this weekend as well. I thought he got round number 2 and round number 3, and I thought that was a clear and obvious. Round number 1, D-Rod edged. A very close fight, but I think Li Jiang should have got a nod, and unfortunately, someone wasn't looking down on him this night, and he didn't get the nod. Someone wasn't looking down on him all weekend, all week. It was you got to feel sorry for the man, but he'll be back. I feel like his stock as well still rises from taking the fight and his performance as well.
Yeah, 100%. D-Rod, in fact, he called for a rematch. I don't think they'll make that, but for Li Jingliang, they should matchmake him like he still has that ranking next to his name. I say you put him in there with either Wonder Boy, Stephen Thompson, or maybe Kevin Holland. Who knows? Just give him a good name, because the guy, in my opinion, earned it.
Absolutely agree. We'll move on to the next one. Ariana, she earned her win on this weekend. It was the first ever up kick body shot KO, if you want to call it. It was beautiful. It was perfectly placed, and she got the job done. You could see the grimace on Macy Chaston's face. You could tell it hurt. But did she need that round 3 finish to get the win?
So I thought the scoring could have been all over the place. So I scored round 1 10-8 for Aldana, and round 2 was arguably a 10-8 for Macy Chasson. So it was a very rounds 1 and rounds 2 were I thought were pretty dominant for both fighters. I thought this was going to be a pretty dominant win for Aldana. That was not the case. Chiasson looked really good in this fight, actually. But one thing to note here, this was a catchweight fight because Macy Chiasson is not good at making 136. She's failed at it, or she's looked really bad on the scale. I think she's a natural featherweight, and Aldana decided to take the fight on, and that little extra weight Macy was carrying around may have helped her in some spots here. But round one, it was competitive on the feet, but once Chiasson went for a takedown, she got stuck in an armbar position, and then she got stuck in a mounted triangle, and Aldana was just scrambling all over the place. And with the dominant position, she started landing a ton of ground and pound, looking awesome in round one. And then in round two, she gets taken down and gets stuck on bottom for too long, and she starts getting hit with ground and pound. So round three, it was all about who ends up on top, and Chiasson ends up on top. So I was like, oh man, my Aldana pick was wrong. I actually picked Aldana by round three knockout. I ended up being right because Chiasson gets up and she gets hit with the ball of Aldana's foot, the heel of the foot, right into the liver. She folds over, and everybody's confused. We didn't really see the initial impact, and then they show that replay, and we all were very admirable of what had happened there, because we've never seen that. Like, whenever a fighter is starting to land up kicks off their back, I always think it's very silly because they never land, and this one landed. And I think some fighters should definitely maybe consider throwing that strike when they're off their back instead of those little push kicks right to the leg. That liver kick was nasty, and she got a well-deserved bonus.
Absolutely, you can see that, as I talked about, the grimace on Macy Chiasson's face. It was perfect placed for Ariane Aldana, and there was talks of winning this one. Ariane Aldana, shoots her way back up, and obviously there's talks now of maybe Amanda Nunes next for Ariane Aldana. But there is a few others in the mix: Caitlin Vieira, Ariane Aldana. What way did the UFC go?
The UFC should do Aldana versus Juliana Pena, in my opinion. I think that would be a very fun fight, and it would be a very challenging fight for both women because of their dominant styles. Aldana would have the striking edge, Pena would have a grappling edge. I would have loved to see that one. But for Aldana, I wouldn't match her up with Caitlin Vieira because she already knocked out Caitlin Vieira, so I'm not exactly so interested in that rematch. And if I'm being honest, I don't think Nunes is fighting a 135 next. When you got fights as easy as Norma Dumont available to you, why not take Norma Dumont in your next title fight?
Yeah, man, maybe they get that one in Brazil, as they're both Brazilian, pay-per-view in January, so makes sense.
That's going to happen.
We'll see what happens next. Mystic Oscar, see what happens. But we'll move over to the next fight. And this one took me by surprise. I thought Walker would have the clear striking edge. And then Iron Kutalaba has that power, and also has the grappling. We've seen him grapple in the past, but I think Walker showed to me that, he has a different side to his game. He has that Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he just didn't seem to use it enough. And he did well in the grappling exchanges, and then obviously took the back of Iron Kutalaba and got the submission win. I was impressed with the grappling defense and obviously the grappling offense as well as Walker.
Yeah, I absolutely nobody saw this coming. Johnny Walker never uses his jiu-jitsu. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I would have guessed he was like a blue-purple belt. Iwan Kutalaba, I thought, had a huge grappling edge. He got himself some takedowns early on. And once Johnny Walker reversed position and got Kutalaba's back, he slammed Kutalaba to the ground. He got the body triangle, and Kutalaba eventually succumbed to the rear naked choke. And this was in the first round. I thought we were going to see a first-round finish, but not a submission. I was thinking a KO on either side, but Walker shows a little bit of evolution there, and he gets himself a submission.
Yeah, I feel like Walker needs to go to his submission or his grappling maybe a little bit more, because obviously a fantastic win. He looked good on the ground. And it's also, I don't know what it is. I feel like maybe Walker should, go to his grappling a little bit more in his fights.
Yeah, I don't think his wrestling is all that good. I thought it was just like muscle that got him there to the position with Kutalaba. But if he does work on that wrestling, I think he could use it effectively against some of these guys. But Walker's gas tank isn't all that good, so all that wrestling, I don't know if I recommend it. But either way, Kutalaba's really fallen on hard times. My goodness.
Yeah, they both needed this win. Antu Kutalaba coming off the back of a loss, and obviously now falling in the hands of Walker. And Walker returns back to winning ways after that. Jamal Hill, crazy, scary knockout, and now he's back in the win column. There's a lot of good fights out there for both men. I think Kutalaba maybe needs to take a step back, reevaluate, and then come back to the octagon and see what's next. That was the main card. It started off well. We started with a TKO finish, and obviously another TKO finish, and obviously we had that the split decision, and those are the two main, the co-main event get the finish, and the main event get the finish too. So the main card overall, it was exciting. It produced the finishes that we wanted, and the prelims as well. There was a lot of submissions. Not submissions. There was a lot of decisions, and obviously we've seen a few KOs. But we'll start off at the top. We talk about that unanimous decision win. Julian Erosa just completely shut out Hakeem Dawodu. Erosa was just one step ahead of him.
This to me was the big shocker of the night. So Hakeem Dawodu was one of my most confident picks on the card. I was thinking he was fighting a very hittable and chainy fighter in Julian Erosa. And I thought he would get himself a knockout here. But in this fight, heading into the fight, we had Dawodu miss weight by a big amount and looking awful on the scales. And that probably impacted his performance here. But Julian Erosa dragged Dawodu into his kind of fight that Dawodu likes, the Muay Thai kind of fight. But Erosa just made it a brawl with some grappling in the mix. He rocks Dawodu early. I'm surprised he didn't knock him out, but he keeps on taking his back constantly. But Dawodu's got very good submission defense, so he does well for himself to not get finished. But he's getting truly beaten badly in every single round. And I thought there was a point where he was just trying to survive in there. This is, to me, I would say the cleanest performance of Erosa's career in the UFC. He always gets, dinged up in this fight. In this fight, he didn't get put on wobbly legs here. He looked impressive. He got a 30-27, and he did it against a guy who has been on the outside of the top 15 for a long time. So I think Erosa, now on a 3-fight win streak, I think he should be rewarded with a solid fight next.
Absolutely agree. It was a fantastic win. He gets the job done, as you talked about, against Hakeem Dawodu. He's been up there and fought some of the best guys, falling short, but he's still a very, very good fighter. And obviously, it's a fantastic win for Julian Erosa, as you talked about, 3 back-to-back now, and maybe a big fight next to him. I feel like he definitely deserves it. Fantastic win for Julian Erosa, shuts him down, gets 30-27 on all scorecards, and then we'll swiftly move on to a catchweight bout at 220 pounds. And I feel like you talked about this guy a lot in the past, and he's been proven his worth. Jailton Almeida, coming off the Contender Series. I remember you talked to him. We talked about him. You said, this guy's Brazilian, but the way he fights, it looks like he's a Dagestanian. So this guy's crazy, and obviously proved it once again. He's like Chimaev. The first few seconds of the fight, he's shooting for the legs, and obviously he's very, very, very good at it. And he got the rear naked choke in round number 1.
Yeah, so he was fighting a guy in Anton Turkalj who had a very competitive grappling match with Gustafsson, won on the Contender Series, but he did in such boring fashion that Lorenzo Fertitta walked out on the fight. It was so boring. Data did not sign him, but they needed a short notice guy for Jailton, who was getting a top 15 opponent in Shamil Abdurrahimov. Anton is a 205er, so they do a 220-pound catch weight. And Jailton, to me, I think he can beat a lot of these heavyweights. And he fought a light heavyweight. He mauled this guy and got the rear naked choke. Anton was not in this fight at all. He completely got out muscled here. And Jailton, he likes that Dagestani handcuff too there. I love his style. I think it's going to be very effective in the future. I don't think he'll be champion at heavyweight, but at light heavyweight, I'm pretty sure he'll eventually win that belt.
Absolutely, he's a phenomenal grappler, and he showed it once again. One of the prospects to look out for at 205 pounds. That division's getting much better as well. We're seeing new talent come through, and obviously Jailton Almeida is going to add his name to the top 10, top 15 in the short and nor distance future. Fantastic win for Jailton Almeida. He improves to 17-2, and obviously in the next one maybe they'll book. He said he wants to book Shamil Abdurrahimov again in Dubai at 283. So we'll see if that one happens next. But yeah, moving over to a middleweight bout between Jamie Pickett and that second name is absolutely horrendous. Tululin, we're going to call him.
Yeah, you got it.
Pickett versus Tululin. This one was a slobber knocker, and obviously he got his second fight inside the UFC. When researching him, I was thinking he was 10-6, and I was thinking there's not too much about him, but he proved his worth in this one. Jamie Pickett obviously falling short and definitely in hard times. I feel like the cardio just kind of abandoned Jamie Pickett in that round number 2.
Yeah, so the thing with Jamie Pickett is I don't really think he's that good at anything. He's just one of these well-rounded guys that can expose guys that have weaknesses in certain areas. And Tulum did have like a weakness in the wrestling, but he's shown that weakness, but like against much better guys than Pickett. Tululin is a marauder. He kill or be killed. He goes for that knockout right away. In fact, all his wins before this were first round KOs, but he stuck around till round 2, and he was able to damage Pickett until he got a knockdown, and the ref took him off of Pickett. Tululin will beat a lot of these low-level guys because he's a straight-up bully, and he's got very good training partners at Extreme Couture. He's commonly in Sean Strickland's corner. I like Tululin's style, but for Pickett, this was Pickett's the guy that's fought what was it, Tafan and Chukwi, and he fought 15 minutes. So it shows you how dangerous Tululin is. He was one of my few underdog picks on this card, and I hope people bet on him.
Absolutely, and he got the win. Credit to him after bouncing back after the his debut loss. Now he gets the win. Fantastic for him. And then we'll move on to arguably star of the show, or if not one of the stars of the show, Charles Barnett. I mean, he put on an absolutely fantastic performance. Sorry?
Chris Barnett, not Charles. Chris.
Who did I say? Sorry, I was actually watching Charles on Gamebred FC, the bare knuckle fight. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Chris Barnett, getting the job done, and obviously, getting that TKO, and the way he got it was phenomenal. Pouncing on the slip or the trip, and then obviously running around the back and getting the job done. The TKO finish. I mean, it was a good fight, and obviously Chris Barnett showing his enthusiasm, his personality once again on the mic. But this was a feel-good story as well of the weekend. In his last fight, when he was fighting Bidet, 30 hours before that fight, his fiance died. So in this one, he had a full camp, he concentrated, and obviously he got the job done. So you can't say good enough things about this guy.
Yeah, Chris Barnett has twice saved 2 cards from being boring cards. But back in New York City, Madison Square Garden, November last year, there was a bunch of lackluster decisions. Chris Barnett goes out there, gets a finish, lights the crowd on fire, and gives the card momentum. And he did it once again here. But this fight was very different because this was one of the craziest comebacks I've seen in a long time. So in round 1, Collier and Barnett decide we're gonna have a bar fight. They just start swinging for the fences, and Collier, of course, I would say was the more skilled fighter in this matchup, and he definitely starts touching up Barnett, and Barnett topples over, and I thought Collier was about to get himself a knockout there, but Barnett miraculously gets up, but he gets taken down, and he gets his back taken, and I truly thought Collier would be able to get a finish there, but he emptied the gas tank there. And this is a guy that's not a natural heavyweight. He should not be carrying this kind of weight. Same thing can be said for Barnett. He's one of the 2 super heavyweights to ever compete in the UFC, him and Justin Tafa, missing weight. But you really can't hate on him too much because he put on such a crazy performance. Heading into round 2, Barnett looks like he has some kind of nerve damage, some kind of cheek injury, because his face starts uncontrollably twitching. His eye is like almost closed shut, but the doctor really doesn't really care. He just says, "Go out there, keep doing your thing." And Barnett shows off his wacky athleticism by stuffing a Collier takedown, which I don't think he could do that. He stuffs the takedown. Collier is so tired he can't spring back up, so Barnett turns things around and gets a dominant position. And once he ends up in that full mount, I said he is not getting up because Chris Barnett is one of the, the heaviest heavyweight of all time. So he was on top of Collier. Collier had nowhere to go. He had a huge man on top of him, raining down blows, and he could not defend himself well enough. And the referee pulled him off, and Barnett then does his hilarious front flip celebration. And as always, he cuts a very great promo on the mic. I really like Chris Barnett. This guy's just different. I don't think there's anybody else in the sport like Chris Barnett. He missed weight. Dana White always hates when he miss weight, but he said he's going to give Chris Barnett a personal bonus.
He's, as we talked about, he's very likable character. He was on the MMA.I yesterday with Erwani, and he did talk about the cheek thing. And he said that he bit when he got punched or something. He bit like a little lump in his cheek, and it was like hanging off, and he was trying to get rid of it.
Oh, that's nasty. Yeah. Jay Collier to me was a big favorite in this fight, but I did not feel good betting him because it's Jay Collier, not that high level. Barnett shows you just how crazy heavyweight MMA is.
Yeah, MMA heavyweight is I just thought about. It's like a whole different sport at times. Obviously, Chris Barnett getting the job done. That's to him.
You're lagging a little bit on me here.
What you say, Oscar?
You're lagging a little bit on me here. All right, it appears Lenny has some kind of internet issues going on. It appears I'm not the lagging one here. So we were just talking about Chris Barnett putting a beating on Jay Collier. And to me, as I said, one of the best comebacks of the year. He really fired up that crowd. And as I said, before this, we had 4 decisions. And the one right before this was Norma Dumont versus Danielle Wolf. And that one to me was not all that shocking. It was shocking in a way that Wolf did not get put away because defensively she's just really bad. So she was an amateur boxer, and then when she went pro, didn't have that great of a record, and she was fighting at 152. 152 does not have a great crop of talent. So when she went to MMA and she barely won her debut on the Contender Series against a very low level fighter, fighting Norma Dumont, I thought was a horrific matchup for her. And in that case, she went on to get outclassed, not just on the ground, but on the feet. The feet is supposed to be her safe space. She's all about the boxing. She claims she would have, been in the Olympics, but she did not look Olympic level on the feet there. In fact, Norma Dumont was having a lot more success with those punches, scoring. So round 1, definitely a round for Norma Dumont. But once we got to round 2, that's when she gets that knockdown. And that knockdown right there was, I thought it was about to end it there, but Norma Dumont does not exactly pounce on her. And then when she gets the second knockdown, that's when I thought it should have been over. But nope, Norma Dumont just sets up shop on top. In round 3, that's when we see Norma really go for the takedown. And I thought Norma could have had a very easy night at the office for herself if she just went for a takedown right away. She really could have gotten I really thought submission was on the table for Norma. But to me, it looked like Norma was not interested in a finish. So it was a point where there was like 2 minutes left in the fight, and Norma Dumont was not really going for it. If she was on Contender Series, I don't know if she gets a contract. So she just has a very dominant round 3. I scored rounds 2 and rounds 3 10-8s for Norma Dumont. Wolf had nothing for her. Wolf, to me, has no business in the UFC. She's incredibly one-dimensional. And Norma Dumont, she's not a super high-level fighter. And she went out there and just did not look competitive in any facet with her. So for me, Amanda Nunes, she does not really like cutting to 135 pounds, but she is the champion at 145 pounds. And at her next fight should be at that weight class. And Norma Dumont, she just got to win. It's not a quality win, but it's a win. And Amanda Nunes tweeted out the eye emojis during that fight. So she was watching. And that's the fight to make if you're Amanda Nunes. Fight Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont would absolutely get dusted in round 1. if they fought. She got dust against Megan Anderson. So I think Amanda Nunes should fight her in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, this January. Brazilian versus Brazilian. That's the fight to book. Amanda Nunes would get herself a very awesome finish in front of the Brazilian crowd. Amanda Nunes has not fought in Brazil in quite a while. The last time I think she fought in Brazil was when she fought Raquel Pennington. What did you make of Norma Dumont's dominant beating of Danny Wolf?
Yeah, the story was of the week going into it was obviously Diana Wolf. Heading into the fight, 1-0. Her first fight was a Contender Series. She was a boxing champion, and that obviously tells you that she's going to have good hands. And obviously, he talked about it. Norma Dumont just outworked her on the feet. She looked good on the feet. And obviously, boxing and MMA boxing, it's just a totally different sport. There's only a few guys that or a few women that have only came over and been successful. And without Holly Holm, she's came over and been successful. Heather Hardy, she tried come over, it didn't work. Now we got down a Wolf, came over, it just didn't work. And obviously, yeah, it's a tough sport. And obviously, Wolf not getting the luck this night. We're not getting the performance that she probably wanted. And obviously, Dumont, I also believe this is the performance that she probably didn't want it, because I feel like this is the performance that's not going to get her that title shot that she wants.
Yeah, can you explain to people how on earth did she not get it finished in this fight? She knocked her down. She was in a dominant position. I cannot believe she didn't get it finished.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. She had a clear edge on the grappling. Everyone knew that coming in. But obviously getting them 2 takedowns, having that 6-minute control time, and she never attempted a submission. So it was beyond me.
Yeah. For me, Norma Dumont definitely needs to work on that fight IQ and the killer instinct, because I think if she had those 2 things, if she had those 2 boxes checked, she could have 100% be talking about a title shot right now. It's actually called out. Who the hell was it? A featherweight that debuted against Stephanie Egger, Eileen Perez. She called out somebody who's 0-1 in the UFC. I can't believe that Norma Dumont didn't call out Nunes. That was really stupid on her part, to be honest. But let's move on to the next one.
Absolutely, Alicia Yang. Alatang Haley. Getting the win over Chad Hellinger. 30-27 on all scorecards. 2 takedowns. The striking was the story of the fight. Alatang Haley just looking crisper and sharper, and then the Canadian.
Yeah, to me, Alatang Haley was one of the safer betting spots on the card. He's a very technical fighter, and we saw it in here because he did not, try to destroy Chad and Helger when he had him rocked. A lot of guys would just go chasing that finish. Alatang Haley stayed within himself and did not go all crazy on him. Chad got rocked in round 1, then he got rocked in round 2, and he started doing a little better in round 3, but Chad was just broken physically at that point in that fight. He was doing a lot of unnecessary movement, in my opinion, trying to move his head a lot, and he still got hit a ton here in this fight. And once Alatang Haley started mixing the takedowns, he had tremendous success. And just like Norma Dumont, should have went for takedowns earlier, maybe, because that would have been an even cleaner performance from Alatang Haley. But for Chad and Helger, I really think this guy's too small for bandwidth. The guy's very short. Sure, he's got power, but I think the power would definitely be more impactful at flyweight.
Absolutely agree. Alatang Haley getting the job done and putting on a fantastic performance, 30-27 on all scorecards. Fantastic performance. I chose Chad Hellinger in this one, and obviously I didn't really have a good day, good week, so this one was awful. I thought Chad Hellinger was coming into the fight, was on a 6-fight win streak. I don't know, but Alatang Haley getting the job done after the knockout against Kevin Kroom or Cameron Elsey. Kevin Kroom, yeah. And obviously now getting the decision win. At bantamweight, he's looking good. With that division gets more and more stacked. Moving on to the women's strawweight bout between Elise Reed and Martinez. Martinez came in, obviously, Combat A global world champion. Her striking was a lot talked about, but she looked very, even though she was fighting a similar physique and Elise Reed, similar size, she looked a lot smaller than Elise Reed to me.
Yeah, to me, this was the classic undefeated prospect who's on getting put in the favorite spot, and the more experienced UFC fighter just come through and kind of show that there's this. The UFC tested fighters tend to do better in these spots, I think. So Melissa Martinez, sure, she was 7-0. Sure, her striking was good, but man, there was a definite disparity on the ground in that fight, and that really sealed the deal for Elise Reed because round one, 100% the round for Elise Reed. She scores a knockdown. Round two, arguably round for Melissa Martinez. Round three, uh, Martinez is doing fine on the feet, and then she gets taken down, stuck down there, and the fight goes to Elise Reed.
Yeah, Elise Reed getting the job done. Her striking looked good. She was holding her own against the Martinez. Obviously came in, known for her striking, Muay Thai kickboxing. And obviously she showed some of it. She had power in them hands for, how small she was. But I feel like she came in at 113.5, I believe. So it shows you how small she is. And maybe if the UFC had in that weight division, she would definitely benefit from that. But we're probably a few years, maybe more, from that even getting into the UFC. First fight of the evening, we've got Johan Lanise getting the job done against Darian Weeks. Darian Weeks now on a losing streak, 2 or 3 back-to-back losses now inside the UFC. Fought Ian Gary, lost, and now he fought Johan Lanise, and obviously getting the job done. Johan obviously returns back to the win column after a split decision or a decision loss. No, a TKO loss, sorry, against Gabe Green.
Yeah, you see right there, Johan Lanes only landed 23 significant strikes, and he still managed to win this split decision. It's because he made those strikes count. Darian Weeks, sure, he had more volume, but he was not really stinging Lanes with a lot of these. I scored round one for Lanes, definitely more aggressive, even though we got outstruck, and he landed bigger shots. Round two was the Weeks round. That was for sure the Weeks round. But he used so much energy in that round. He in round three was fatigued himself, so fatigued. He was fighting a guy that was also fatigued, but Lanez was able to a little harder and barely edge it out on the judges' scorecards. I didn't think this was a great performance from both guys. I actually thought Weeks would have the better cardio and that would result in him winning this fight, but I was wrong. Lanez, not that he has great cardio, but he paced himself and he won this split decision here. Not exactly an inspiring performance, but hey, it's his first UFC win. All right, I believe Lenny is frozen up on us. Um, let's see if he exits out or yeah, he's still frozen up on us. So this was the first victory for Johan Lanes in the UFC. First UFC fight was short notice versus Brian Barberina. Second UFC fight was against Ian Gary. And now he took on Darian Weeks there, and no, he took on Johan Lanes there. It feels once I would imagine the UFC is going to cut him at this point. Hopefully Lenny gets his laptop issues resolved. I hope it's not his Wi-Fi. But nonetheless, I say we move on to previewing this UFC Vegas 60 card headlined by Corey Sandhagen versus Song Yudong. Let me just pull up this card right here on ESPN. I think we're looking at a very quality card here. Sure, we lost the co-main event. It's supposed to be Sodiq Yusuff versus Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze had to pull out for some reason. Right now, it says Sodiq Yusuff is going to fight somebody to be determined. I hope they keep Sodiq on the card because Sodiq always puts on a show. Very excited for this card. As I said, I really think that the highlight, though, will be that performance from Corey Sandhagen in the main event because that's my pick. I'm picking Corey Sandhagen to win via unanimous decision against Song Yudong. So Song Yudong, he's a guy that came into the UFC very early into his career. I believe he was just 21. He was knocking these guys out. He was looking like a great prospect out of Team Alpha Male. and he was having some competitive fights with some lower level guys. He had himself a draw with Cody Stamen back in the day, and I truly thought he lost that fight to Stamen. Now, if they fight, I think he wrecked Stamen, but you also look at the Marlon Vera fight. That's a win for him, but in my opinion, he lost that fight. But to me, the fight a lot of people should reference heading into this one is the Kyler Phillips fight. So he was in that fight. A lot of people thought he was gonna beat Kyler Phillips, but Kyler Phillips had a fantastic performance in that fight. He was able to land a lot of flashy techniques. He was able to use his range very well. And Sang Yudong would be the guy just going for those big looping strikes. And Phillips would stay a little more technical and just beat him up from the outside. And I think that's exactly what Corey Sandhagen can do here. And he's much bigger than Kyler Phillips. So I think also the fact that Corey Sandhagen has fought 5 rounds with both TJ Dillashaw and Piotr Jan, I think we're looking at a lot of advantages for Corey Sandhagen in this fight. Sure, Sang Yudong, he does 100% hit harder, but if you look at some of those knockout wins he's getting, Julio Arce, Marlon Rice, Alejandro Perez, those are not exactly the most durable guys out there. I really think also that Casey Kenny fight, to me, that was a close fight, and I just think Corey Sandhagen does a lot of things better than Casey Kenny. I'm thinking we're going to look at a very great fight for Corey Sandhagen, a confidence booster, if you will. For the Sang Yudong fans, they're probably going to be hoping for a knockout here, but that chin of Corey Sandhagen is very tested at this point in his career. I would say that Corey Sandhagen would not get tagged up by Sang Yudong here. He might lose a round here or two because that's what happened in the Piotr Jan fight. There was rounds where he was out striking Jan, but Jan landed the cleaner shot. So that could happen here and there, but I really think that the pace of Sandhagen is really going to pay off here. If you ask me, if they go to the ground, I think Sandhagen could get himself a submission if he wanted to as well. So I'm taking Corey Sandhagen to win the fight via unanimous decision and return to his winning ways. Sure, he lost to guys like Aljamain Sterling and Piotr Jan, and TJ Dillashaw, but let's be real, he won that TJ Dillashaw fight. But to me, Corey Sandhagen should return to form in this fight. All right, if you want to talk about that co-main event, of course, there's technically no co-main event right now, but I think Sodiq Yusuff, I think he will likely get a win against the short notice opponent. I think they're going to give him some super big step up in competition. But what do you make of that main event, Corey Sandhagen versus Sang Yudong?
I'm hoping you can hear me. The Wi-Fi's been absolutely terrible. I keep losing it. Let's hope I can actually keep it for 10 minutes. But I think it's a fantastic fight. I think the technical striking of Corey Sandhagen is going to be on full display. Sang Yudong hits out an absolute mule. He hits out an absolute truck. And obviously we've seen Corey Sandhagen take the best shots from TJ Dillashaw, Peter Yan, and he hasn't fallen. He hasn't been knocked down. Off the top of my head, anyway, hasn't been knocked out. So he's got, as you talked about, he's tried and tested. If you look at Sang Yudong, he's got, he throws everything with brute force, and I feel like Corey Sandhagen has been able to slip that, take advantage of that, and obviously pick him apart with how great he is technically.
Yeah. As I said, if you look at the Kyler Phillips fight, that was a fight where Sandhagen struggled with a guy with the cleaner, more sharper striking at distance, and that's what Sandhagen can do here. Sure, we're going to see Sang Yudong coming forward, trying to swing those hooks. Corey Sandhagen is not as hittable as Marlon Rice. He's not as hittable as Julio Arce. I think we're going to be looking at a very stylish performance from Corey Sandhagen. This is a step down in competition, a serious step down. I think Sang Yudong is like number 9, and Sandhagen in his last fight, who was it that he fought? Was it TJ Dillashaw? No, it was Peter
Yan. He fought
exactly.
TJ, then Peter.
Exactly, the former. He's only lost to champions in his last 3. I think this is the step down he needed to get his confidence back.
Absolutely agree. I can't even load anything on my other tab right now. So we're using yours for the time being. Technology can always be one day be on your side and the other day not be on your side. So yeah, fantastic main event. I'm looking forward to it. And then we'll move on to that co-main event. And as you can see, Sadiq Yusuf, as of right now, does not have an opponent, so we can't really talk about that. So hopefully they can find him one in the rest of this week. So we're going to have to move on to Chidri Njoukani versus Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. And Robocop Rodriguez is game. We've seen that in the recent fights. But Chidri Njoukani, my gosh, he announced himself on the UFC in style.
Yeah, Chidi Njoukani has had a fantastic run in the UFC so far. He was a guy that actually didn't do all that well in Bellator, so you would think maybe he struggles in the UFC. No, this guy has gotten better since his Bellator days, and he has such a lethal striking style, and what he's been able to do to some of these guys in such quick fashion is remarkable. So if you look at his run so far, he was able to. So on the Contender Series, he knocks out Mario Souza in round 3, and then he takes on Marc-Andre Barrios. That one right there was the shocker to me because I thought Marc-Andre was going to win that fight. And in 16 seconds, a clean 1-2 KOs Marc-Andre Barrios. Then he fights Dusko Torovic. He gets out grappled most of that fight, but one elbow in the clinch and Dusko falls down like a big old tree. This guy is super dangerous, and I think this is a fight where if Gregory Rodriguez decides to start using that grappling, which I really wish he would start doing, I think RoboCop can find great success in this fight, but you can't trust him to do it. The guys, I would compare him to Gilbert Burns in a way. Burns doesn't really go to grapple anymore. He just loves getting those KOs. So what was it? So on the Contender Series, he gets knocked out bad by who was it? What's his name? Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams has been cut by the UFC after losing 2 in a row at welterweight. So he's not exactly super high level. So after that, I labeled him a chinny fighter, but he kind of proves me wrong after he goes into the UFC, fights Dusko Torovic, and he puts a beating on him for 3 rounds. Then he fights Jung Young Park, and that was the fight of the night. That night, crazy fight. And he ends up knocking out Jung Young Park.
You can actually see Gregory Rodriguez's fight to the right there.
Yep, yeah. Gregory Rodriguez, what he did against Julian Marquez was remarkable. I thought that was going to be a war, but no, that was a one-sided beatdown, and he KO'd a very durable fighter in Julian Marquez that night. You look at the Armin Petrosyan fight, another war he had. In that fight, he got put on wobbly legs a ton. But he ends up barely losing that fight. But to me, there was like no losings that fight because it was so close. But for me, the Chidi Njoukani fight, this is going to be a super fun fight to watch. I really think we're going to finish. But I think the finish will be on the Chidi Njoukani side. I think Chidi has the stopping power to put away RoboCop here. I'll say he does it in round 2. I'll say he does it with a clean 1-2, knocks out RoboCop.
Yeah, fantastic fight. Chidi Njoukani, I do got as well. Announcing himself onto the UFC stage, as you talked about. Didn't really get the best of, I didn't get the best of runs inside the Bellator. Lost against John Salter, lost against the former champion Rafael Carvalho, and obviously lost against, off the top of my head, I can't remember his other loss.
No, neither can I, but it was all
Andre Korshkov.
There we go.
And obviously, fantastic fight. Chidi Njoukani, I've also got as well. Moving on to the next one, a featherweight bout between Andre Fili and Bill Algeo. This one I'm quite surprised they booked up because obviously Andre Fili, just talking about a terrible run as of late. In his last fight, getting knocked out, getting finished against Jonathan Brito, I believe his name was. And obviously Bill Algeo, Jonathan Brito looking, and obviously Bill Algeo looking fantastic, getting the stoppage via exhaustion via Herbert Burns not being able to fight any longer. I think Bill Algeo is going to be able to maybe not have his way, but be comfortable in this fight, striking obviously, and the grappling. That's where it could be a little bit tested. But I also believe as well, Bill Algeo can get the better than Andre Fili on the grappling.
Yeah, I think this is a classic fight the UFC likes to put on their main cards just so they can let the fireworks fly. These guys are never engaging in these boring fights. Philly loves to strike, but he doesn't mind mixing in the grappling here and there. But for me, Algio is one of these cardio kings. He will weather anybody's first round storm, and after that, he likes to apply that pressure, break his opponent however he can, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. And I think this is the fight where he's fighting a guy in Philly that doesn't necessarily slow down a ton. So I'm going to be favoring Philly in this matchup. He's not the kind of opponent that Algio tends to beat up there. Sure, he got the win over Burns and Brito, but as I said, those are guys with bad gas tanks. The Hamos fight, he got taken out constantly in that fight. And I don't think Philly will be going for those takedowns that much. The Lamas fight got beat everywhere there, but to me, I think Philly will be able to make this fight a little cleaner than your typical Bill Algio fight, and Algio is very hittable, so I'll be siding with Philly here by decision.
Absolutely. If you look at Algio, you can see it there to the right, surviving that triangle choke from Herbert Burns. It was phenomenal. Obviously, you got that. Obviously, you can see there the win by the exhaustion. That was a weird fight. But obviously, Andre, as you talked about, Andre, I just feel like losing to Jonathan Brito, losing to he did lose to Daniel Pineda, and then that got overchanged, I believe.
No, he was about to knock out Daniel Pineda, but he poked him in the eye, so it became a no contest.
There we go. And then before that, he lost to Bryce Mitchell, but he did get a split decision over Charles Jourdain, and that's aged very, very well.
Oh yeah,
I say very well, but Charles Jourdain lose the decision over Nathaniel Wood recently.
Yeah, but for Philly, he's always losing to the guys that are a bit of the upper echelon in the division, like Yusuf and Mitchell. Brito, on the other hand, Brito's got a lot of potential, but yeah, for me, I'm thinking Andre Philly can outbox Bill Algio in this fight. I think that boxing will really stand out.
Yeah, if we talk about MMA, Bill Algio beating Jonathan Brito, but Jonathan Brito losing to Bill Algio, sorry, and obviously Andre Philly beat Jonathan Brito. So, I mean, MMA doesn't work like that, but, you know, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a great fight. As you talked about, both guys love to, you know, throw the hands, and obviously Bill Algio loves to be in a scrap, and obviously seen that in our last fight. So, let's see what happens, but I'll go with Bill Algio. You're going with Andre Philly. So, the first one we could see of you know, told you so fight of the week.
So fight of the week. There we are. And now we'll talk about the heavyweight opener.
Absolutely, a fantastic heavyweight opener. Tanner Bosa, the Canadian,
like a very light press conference,
in the first fight of the
nothing like that.
main card
with Logan and Jake to reenact the photo from years ago. What was that like?
Is that on your screen?
I don't know what the audio source is here.
I think it might be a video. But
there we are.
It's Anderson Silva promoting his food fight. Get him out of here. I was wondering what that was. Tanner Bosa fighting Rodrigo Nascimento in a heavyweight scrap on in the main card. Sorry, opening up a fantastic main card opener, and obviously Canadian versus the Brazilian Rodrigo Nascimento, and the banger of the hands of Tanner Bosa. Which one do you reckon is going to get it done?
Yeah, I'm really confident Tanner Boser wins this fight. Boser has been on the shelf for a very long time. He's been this particular match has been booked multiple times, but issues keep on happening. I think Boser's very hungry to get back in there. He started out getting a lot of the decisions in the UFC, but once this guy really lets go, he knocked out Felipe Lins, knocked out Rafael Pessoa, and then he knocked out Owen St. Peru. That's the biggest win of his career. And in the Ilir Latifi fight, he knocks down Ilir Latifi and breaks his orbital bone. The Andre Arlovsky fight, I thought he won that fight. In fact, both the Latifi and Arlovsky fights, those are controversial decisions to this day. So you could argue the guy's on this big win streak. Of course, lost to Cyril Gahn early in the career. But I really liked the body work from Tanner Boser so far. And Rodrigo Nascimento, on the other hand, I have not liked the body work on this guy. The guy's gas tank is really bad. His jiu-jitsu is good, sure, but on the feet, he just kind of looks clueless at times, and it doesn't look like he has this big power that should concern you at heavyweight. So in the Alan Badeau fight, he's winning round one, and then round two he gasses out and gets finished. The Chris Dawkins fight, he gets knocked out in less than a minute. But it's the Mays fight where he looks the best, and on the Contender Series, he was talked about as this great submission artist, but I just don't think he's all that high level. I think we're going to be getting a classic Taryn Bozer knockout. I'll say round two once Rodrigo Nascimento slows down.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at his record, obviously got knocked out by Chris Dawkins, and I feel like that's going to be the same fate for Nascimento. I do agree. I think that the hands and the quickness.
I was wrong. So I said he gassed and got knocked out by no. Alan Badeau gassed out, and then he got the knockout. I remembered it wrong because both guys were just so tired at that point in the fight.
Yeah, it was a slob knockover heavyweight fight. But yeah, I think Bosa is going to get it this one. I need the quickness and the speed of him at heavyweight. He's such a small heavyweight and in shape as well. He can definitely use that to his advantage in this one. I think he's going to pick apart Rodrigo Nascimento and eventually fall in the second or third round.
Yeah, I really like that fight. Great showcase spot for Tanner Boser. We'll move on now to the middleweight fight headlining the prelims.
Anthony Fluffy Hernandez coming back against Marc-Andre Barrios. And Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, obviously, with that huge guillotine choke over Rafael Vieira last year, and obviously beating Josh Friend this year. Marc-Andre Barrios, the Canadian, has only fought twice this year. Lost to Jijian Kwani, as we talked about earlier, and obviously beat Jordan Wright by mounting a guillotine choke. And Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, surely this has got to be your favorite.
So this is a very tough one for me to pick. At this current moment, I'm leaning towards Marc-Andre Barrios. Marc-Andre Barrios, this guy's had a very up and down UFC career. We just talked about him getting knocked out 16 seconds by Chidi Njokuani. But you look a little deeper into his UFC run. He had a split decision with Krzysztof Jotko, that's fairly impressive. The Oscar Pechota no contest, that was actually a second round KO there, showing off his power. He beat the crap out of Dalja Lungiambula, got a decision there. And the Jordan Wright fight, that was impressive there because we all thought he was going to knock him out, and he gets himself an easy guillotine in round one. So for me, I will pick Marc-Andre Barrios in this fight just because Anthony Hernandez is not fighting a guy that he can really move around like he moved around Josh Friend and some other guys. I think Marc-Andre Barrios is going to stay safe when it comes to grappling. His gas tank is not, I wouldn't say it's awesome, but it's definitely serviceable, and it's not going to be as bad as, your Rodolfo Vieira. So I really think we're looking at a Marc-Andre Barrios decision here. I think on the feet, he's 100% got more power. And I think we're looking at a very fun fight here. We're going to see a lot of scrambles on the ground if it gets there. And that's where I think we would see Hernandez have his most success. But I'll pick Barrios here. I think he can land the more devastating strikes and maybe get some control time up against the cage.
Yeah, I never told you so far the week because Marc-Andre Barrios is going to lose this one. He's going to get either. I don't think he's going to get knocked out, and he's going to lose the decision. I think Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is going to get 3 back-to-back wins. If you look at his run as of late, obviously I talked about that submission over Rafael Vieira, but other than that, he lost to Kevin Holland, lost to Marcus Perez. Marcus Perez now released from the UFC, and obviously Kevin Holland fought in the weekend, so he's doing bits. But that win over Junior Park, he beat Rafael Vieira, he beat Brandon Allen in his LFA days. He had a no contest against Jordan Wright, but I believe he won that fight. Punches, I believe he might have tested positive. He tested positive for marijuana, but that's basically a win. So he beat Jordan Wright, he beat Brandon Allen. He's lost to Marcus Perez and Kevin Holland, but that Marcus Perez fight, that's concerning. But I don't see Marc-Andre Barrios be able to take it to the ground and maybe submit him. I'm rooting out the occasion. I think Anthony Fluffy Hernandez can get his way striking, avoid the power of Marc-Andre Barriault, and maybe even submit him. But this one's going to decision, and I think it's going to be in the favor of Anthony Fluffy Hernandez.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited for this one. I'm a fan of both fighters, and I'll be sided with Marc-Andre Barriault here. I think this is definitely a challenge for him on the ground, but I really think he can use his size and win this fight. We'll move on now.
74% on Tapology are choosing Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, so that's a cool, interesting
that's
stat.
interesting.
Then the next one is absolutely barn burner. And obviously, Pat Sabatini versus Damon Jackson. This one's really good. And if you look at Tapology, I think it was 94% maybe choosing not 84% are choosing Pat Sabatini. I think that's justified because Pat Sabatini is a hell of a fight, and I think he's going to show it once again against Damon Jackson. If you look at his run inside the UFC, beat TJ Laramine, beat Tucker Lutz, and obviously beat Jamal Emmers. This guy is phenomenal. He's ruthless. He's fantastic. Obviously, got that win over Tristan Conning as well. This guy is an absolute savage, and I think he's going to get another fight, another victory, and obviously against a very tested veteran in Damon Jackson. I'm going to the scorecards, and I'm favoring Pat Sabatini by via wrestling, whatever.
Yeah, so Pat Sabatini, this guy trains out of the Philadelphia Gracie gym, and those guys are all monsters, and they've never lost in the UFC. The main thing I noticed with those guys is they're all built like turtles. They have incredibly muscly backs, and they're able to outmuscle their opponents constantly. And the great thing Daniel Gracie does with his students is he really teaches them how to apply jiu-jitsu into MMA properly. There's some guys that train just jiu-jitsu and then hope to implement that in MMA. No, they get taught specifically how to implement it into the sport, and they're very successful with it. But Pat Sabatini is not one of these guys chasing these submissions. He likes to keep that position. And against Damon Jackson, Jackson is one of those guys that actually likes the submission more than the position. On the feet here, I would give a slight edge to Damon Jackson. But Damon Jackson is also very capable of getting tagged and hurt even against lower level opponents. And his gas tank looked really bad in his last one here. So I think there's a lot of reasons to pick Pat Sabatini. But the fact that he's undefeated on a great run, I'll definitely be siding with Pat Sabatini by unanimous decision in this fight. I think he's the stronger guy in there. And he can even if he gets taken down himself, maybe he could reverse position. That's how strong of a grappler I think he is.
Yeah, I think Pat Sabatini is a no-brainer. A very, very smart bet for this weekend. As I talked about, 84% of Tapology think Pat Sabatini are going to win. So it shows the confidence they have in him, and I think it's justified and rightly so. I think we're going to see another fantastic performance from Pat Sabatini.
Yeah. We'll move on now to the next one.
And we have a welterweight bout between Trevor Giles and Lewis Koski. A very, very good matchup in the welterweight division. Trevor Giles recently, off the top of my head, I can't remember when he fought, but he did lose he lost Dricus Duplessis, and obviously lost against Michael Morales. There we go. 2 back-to-back losses. He got knocked out in both fights, and now he takes on Lucas Koski. So who you got in this one?
Yeah, I really am confident in Trevor Giles here. This guy is much more UFC tested, and his gas tank is so much better than Lewis Kosi. He's so much more experienced. I really think there's a multitude of reasons to take Giles here, and the only reason people don't have him as this huge favorite is because his chin has not looked all that good as of late, and the weight cut down to 170 doesn't look to be beneficial. Yeah,
absolutely. So obviously, the Michael Morales is an absolute fantastic. He's a marauder. He's so good, as we've seen recently as well. And obviously, Dricus Duplessis is very, very well-rounded as well, and obviously getting a knockout. Obviously, you see Lewis Koski. If you look at his record, 7-1, very, very young in his career. Got that loss against Sasha
Palatnikov.
There you go. And obviously, Sasha is now outside the UFC fighting for ex-MMA, I believe. But obviously, Sasha has some obviously potential. He has that hard hit him. hard hits. But if you look at this, very, very, I believe it's maybe a striker versus striker matchup. Trevor Giles has win in the past. Already beat Bevan Lawrence, beat James Krause, lost to Jared Mearshart, lost to Zach Cummins, both by via guillotine choke, and he got knocked out twice. So every fight he's had, which he's lost, he has got finished.
Yeah, that's here. But the main thing with me here is Louis Cosi is a classic contender series top fighter. He looks damn good on the show, getting himself a quick KO. But once you put him in the UFC with the bright lights on him, he cannot get that finish in round 1. Round 2 comes around, he's completely gassed, and he eventually gets finished in round 3 by Sasha Palatnikov, who's not even UFC caliber. I think Giles can definitely weather this round 1 storm from Cosi. He's even in the Michael Morales fight, he had Michael Morales hurt there too, but the problem was he rushed in, got knocked out. He was winning the Duplessis fight before he got knocked out himself there. So I think he's going to be very defensively sound here, not take too many big risks, and just let Cosi tire himself out. Cosi has a wrestling background, just like his brother Lewis, and I think he can get some takedowns here early, but it's just going to tire this guy out. And I think Giles' jab will be put to good use here, and I think he finishes Cosi via round 2 TKO late in the round. I just think Cosi is just very aggressive and inexperienced, so he gasses himself out. And Giles, he's got real power in his hands. What he did to Roman Dolidze to me was so impressive, because Dolidze came into that fight undefeated with a really good run at light heavyweight. He moves down division, and Giles was battering this guy on the feet. So I think Giles should definitely be a bigger favorite, and he'll win by knockout.
Yeah, Trevor Giles maybe looking to return back to winning ways after 2 back-to-back losses, and also is his opponent, his adversary, Louis Koski. So an interesting fight in welterweight division, but I'm also siding, as you mentioned, I'm also siding Trevor Giles. And heading over to Tapology, they are siding Trevor Giles by 81%, so a very, very large gap.
Yeah, all right, let's move swiftly through the rest of the card.
Yep, and that is a middleweight bout between Alan Amedovski and Joseph Pfeiffer. And I'm going to keep this one short and simple. I don't trust Alan Amedovski, and I don't believe he's going to be able to win this fight. And I'm going to go with Joe Pfeiffer.
Yeah, Joe Pfeiffer is a 4-1 favorite in this fight. If you remember episode 1 of Contender Series, Dana White's big quote was, "Be like Joe Pfeiffer," because Joe Pfeiffer got himself a second-round KO. On that show, they were not going for finishers, and he went for that finish and got the KO. So that's what he's going to do to Alan Amedovski here, who is winless in the UFC. He used to be in Bellator, knocking fools out. Now he's in the UFC, dominated by Jotko, knocked out by John Phillips, who's not in the UFC anymore, submitted by Joseph Holmes there, who's not even a black belt. I think this guy's skill set is very limited, and he loves to get in brawls. That goes right into Joe Pfeiffer's style. Joe Pfeiffer trains with Pat Sabatini, who we just talked about earlier. I think Joe Pfeiffer has a huge jiu-jitsu advantage here if he wants to use it. But on the feet, he'll do just fine. I think he knocks out Alan Amedovski, I'll say round 2.
Yeah, this is a fantastic fight, and I think this is the Joe Pfeiffer favorable matchup. Alan Amedovski, 3 losses back-to-back inside the UFC, and obviously not looking great inside the UFC. Came over from Bellator. There was high expectations and just hasn't lived up to them since he's moved over. So interesting to see how he gets on, but I do believe Joe Pfeiffer gets this one done.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. I say he's pretty much a lock in that spot.
Yeah, 94% on Tapology pick Joe Pfeiffer. But yeah, moving on to the next one. We got a women's bantamweight bout, but we're not at the fight yet. It might get changed because obviously we've seen Aspen Ladd recently. She's not liking them winning bantamweight bout, so hold your horses on this one. This one probably might get moved up on short notice or something. Maybe a catchweight bout.
Yeah, Aspen Ladd has had a very strange last couple fights. She's not been looking herself as of late, and the fight IQ is not exactly there when you want it to be. But for me, this is all about who gets more grappling success going here, because both women love to grapple. That's their base. Sarah McMahon, obviously, Olympic medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling. I think this could be potentially a very dangerous fight for Ladd to take, just because she really needs a win, and I'm not sure what Sarah McMahon is going to be somebody to walk over. The big knock on Sarah McMahon is she always tires out in round 3, and that could definitely happen here. In the last fight, she did not really tire out in round 3. She was able to have a lot of success. But Ladd is very strong and on the feet, not very defensively sound, but she's aggressive and she tends to land those strikes. So I will be signing with Aspen Ladd right now, hoping she can do well on this scale and have her mindset right here. I'll side with Aspen Ladd. Of course, the younger fighter here, I would say she's got more pop in her punches. And she definitely could get herself like a third round finish here if McMahon's gas tank is really compromised.
Yeah, I'm actually favouring Sarah McMahon in this one. I think it's the close fight, and if you look at Sarah McMahon in her last fights, there's a loss against Julia Pena that really stands out to me, and she was winning. She was winning that fight until she got submitted. She was on the way to victory of beating the future champion of division, but she fell short right at the end. And that one gives me really good hope. That was a good performance, and she bounces back against a phenomenal fighter, a very good prospect in Carol Rosa. I think Aspen Ladd, as she talked about, not looking at herself as of late, and I think it's going to continue. But the 41-year-old Sarah McMahon is going to get it done. A veteran experience is going to pull through. Aspen Ladd, I'm not too sure what it is, but maybe she needs to go back, work on the drawing board. But we haven't got to the fight yet. We need the fight to happen. She could go in there, she could knock her out, but I think Sarah McMahon can get the job done. But third round, as you talked about, is always the tricky one.
Yep, yeah, I think this is a very close fight here. But I do like Aspen Ladd's striking more than Sarah McMahon, so that's what's pushing me to pick her.
Moving over to a women's strawweight bout between Luma Lukbumi and Dennis Gomez. Luma Lukbumi returning after a loss against what's her name?
Lupi Godinez.
Lupi Godinez, and then Dennis Gomez entering the UFC after her Contender Series fight 2 weeks ago. Wow.
Yeah. That to me is a concern because Denise Gomes was involved in a brawl. That was a back and forth fight. She got touched up a lot in that fight, and but she of course did the majority of the damage, won the decision. She's actually the wife of Carol Hossa, ranked women's bantamweight. And she also trains with the name, I believe, Jessica Andrade trains with them too. They're a really good team of high-level female fighters from Brazil. And I think Gomes probably will have her hands full here with Loma Lukbumi. Loma, unfortunately, is a natural and weight fighting these strawweights, but on the feet, she doesn't exactly look like lost against some of the higher-level fighters, like the Angela Hill fight. That was competitive. She looked good in the Abu fight. The Frey fight, she was wrecking her on the feet. The Sam Hughes fight, more the same. She's against these low-level fighters without that great of a takedown game. She's going to win a lot of these fights. But Gomes, I don't really think she's got the kind of grappling that will give Loma that much trouble. Don't get me wrong. She probably gets a takedown or two in this one, but she's not some great wrestler that makes me concerned here. And as I said, just fought 2 weeks ago, so she's going to be a little banged up. So I'll side with Loma Lukbumi here to win by decision.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think we've seen her in the past. Her striking, obviously, that's where she comes from. That's her bread and butter, the striking, the Muay Thai. That's where she really thrives in. And if you look at her opponent, her adversary, Dennis Gomez, that one loss, that's when she got finished in her first fight. But there's really not too much we can really look at that. But for her debut, she fought a 6-3 fighter. So you see her heart, obviously, the balls in her as well. And then she came back, she won 6 in a row, and obviously now she's inside the UFC. But I'm going to go with Luma Lukbumi, as obviously what you mentioned there. Obviously, the fighting recently could obviously be a bad factor, and obviously Luma Lukbumi has that UFC experience and fought some really good caliber fighters. Angela Hill, and she got a loss, and obviously she lost against Lupi Godinez. So I think she can get this one done and then hand Gomez her first UFC loss.
All right, we'll move on to the lightweight fight here.
A lightweight fight between Trey Ogden and Daniel Zellhuber, the Mexican and the American, a very, very tall Mexican for lightweight, 6'1". He's 12-0, undefeated, 7 TKOs, 2 submissions, a lot of finishes on his record. But is he going to get it done against Trey Ogden?
He's a minus 270 favorite in this fight. I think he should be minus 400. I know he's not fought some crazy level of competition, but he won on the Contender Series back in 2021, September last year. He took a year off, and that was mainly for improvement, training at Extreme Couture. And my goodness, he's so tall. He's got such a big reach advantage here. I really think that this is going to be a spot where Trey Ogden is going to be panic wrestling constantly, because Trey Ogden, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to strikers. Let me tell you. So the guy fought Jordan Levitt. Jordan Levitt is only good at grappling. That striking is just not there. And he was able to outpoint Trey Ogden on the feet. Not with punches, not any. He wasn't head-hunting at all. He beat him with an inside leg kick. Daniel Zellhuber can land better inside leg kicks in his sleep. This guy has been striking his whole life. I think he's going to destroy Trey Ogden. Ogden, to me, is not a UFC caliber talent, and his grappling is solid. But he got my goodness, he got submitted by the same guy who was with a horrific record twice with a guillotine. Like, what was it? Like within a minute. Like, I don't think he's that high level at all. The upside he has is the jiu-jitsu in this fight, but I think Zellhuber has definitely worked on the defensive grappling here, and he should be able to do whatever he wants on the feet and get himself a second round TKO here. I think he's levels ahead of Ogden standing.
Yeah, you were that submission loss you were talking about was Thomas Gifford, a guillotine choke within round 1 minute in the both fights. So he got submitted in 1 minute and twice against the same opponent. And obviously, you might remember Thomas Gifford fought inside the UFC.
Yeah, Mike Davis.
The Mike Davis knockout. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe in Trey Ogden's skill set. He doesn't have anything that jumps off the table at me.
Absolutely agree. I'm also going with Daniel Zellhuber. 90% on Tapology as well. People think he's going to get it done. 60% by KO, and the 28% by decision, and 6% by submission. 6% submission. So a lot of people are very confident on Daniel Zellhuber, and I think it's justified.
Yeah, and not to mention Zellhuber, the win he had on the Contender Series was over a guy that the UFC decided to sign anyway, Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida KO'd Michael Drzano a couple of months ago. So I'll let you know that the level that Zellhuber's on.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic level as we've seen later. So a good fight. I think Daniel Zellhuber's going to get it done. But moving on to the next one, women's flyweight division. Marina Agapova versus Gillian Robertson. Gillian Robertson finally returning back to the octagon. So as of Maria Agapova. But if you look at the last few fights, Gillian Robertson, and not the best of stretches right now. Losing to JJ Aldridge, losing to Miranda Maverick. 2 losses back to back in a row. So it's not looking great for her as of late. But if you look at Maria Agapova, also not looking great. Losing to Miranda Morozov, losing to Shayna Dobson with that ground and pound, one of the biggest upset victories of that year. Beating Sabana Mazo, but now she's facing a talented grappler in Gillian Robertson, and I do believe she's going to get submitted 2 fights in a row. She got submitted against Marina Morozov, and I feel like she's going to get submitted against Gillian Robertson. I think it's a good fight for Gillian Robertson to return back to winning ways, and I feel like she's going to get the finish.
Yeah, Robertson has the most finishes in the division's history. She's a black belt under Dean Thomas. Really good fix on the ground, especially against women with defensive issues when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Agapova fought Marina Moros. Moros is not she has a boxing background. The wrestling's not all that high level. The jiu-jitsu is not all that high level. And what she basically mauled Agapova. I think Robertson can do the same to Agapova. I know Agapova 100% is a better striker. That's that's a guarantee right there. She could knock out Jillian Robertson on the feet if she wants, but I don't think she can defend those takedowns. And I think she's gonna give up her back, trying to get up and get submitted with a rear naked choke. I'll say it happens in round 2 because Agapova has shown a tendency to get tired in that round 2.
Yeah, and Jillian Robertson loves that rear naked choke. Actually showed at you 269 versus Priscilla Castellaro. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's her preferred submission. She could get any submission she wants. Quite honestly, the armbar, the guillotine, whatever she wants.
Yeah, and moving over to a next fight, a bantamweight, Tony Gravely versus Javid Basharat. Two of the brothers fighting this weekend. This week we've got one fighting today. Farid, I do believe is the Farid Basharat, and obviously we've got Javid Basharat. So 2 brothers fighting within a week, and I've got to say, Tony Gravely it's not an easy matchup. I was seeing his last fight, that finish, that knockout against Johnny Mozov, Monos. Getting that knockout, getting the job done, and it showed that he's not just a wrestler; he has power in them hands. So this is a tough fight for Javid. I'm interested to see where it goes. But where does Oscar think the fight's going to go?
Yeah, to me, I think the fact that that Javid isn't like in where people are confident in him to win, I think is weird because Tony Gravely, for all his gifts and everything, he hits super hard. He's got these great explosive takedowns. You look at that highlight right there. He got knocked out by the ghost of Nate Maness. Nate Maness got saved by the bell in round 1, and come round 2, the guy's barely conscious, and he finds the chin on Gravely after Gravely gassed out a little bit there, trying to get the finish. I truly believe that Javid Basharat, he showed off tremendous skills in his UFC debut when he fought Trevin Jones. I thought Jones was gonna knock him out there, but he out-volumed Jones in that fight. He got some takedowns in that fight. I really think he's got a really well-rounded skill set, and I think he knocks out Tony Gravely. I'll say round 3. I don't think Javid has any chin issues. He's undefeated. I really think Gravely may have some early success, but that Nate Maness knockout loss was a bad one, and he's also been submitted like 5 times, so that is on the table for Javid Basharat.
The story of the brothers of the Basharat brothers is absolutely phenomenal. They showed it on Contender Series of the lead up to Farid's fight. They were Afghan refugees. They went over to Pakistan, and then from there they went to the UK. So they have an English accent. Well, Farid did anyway. What I've seen on the Contender Series, they lived in London and they lived there, and it says they train at Extreme Couture, so they're getting good looks down there. So yeah, Afghan refugees lived in the UK. Obviously, I'm rooting for him to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think he's one of the best talents out of Afghanistan. Sure, he's got he's got the height in this spot, same reach as Tony, but I really like the fact that against Trevin Jones, he won in every area of that fight. There, Trevin Jones is a real monster. Remember back in the day, he knocked out Timur Valiev, he knocked out Mario Batista, but Javid was able to style on him, hurt him multiple times on feet. That fight right there sold me on him. And I think both brothers are going to win this week.
Absolutely. The first brother fights this weekend in Contender Series, and obviously Javid fights this weekend. But moving over to the first fight of the evening, we've got a lightweight battle between Nicholas Mota and Cameron Venkamp. This one down at lightweight, Cameron Venkamp came in short notice at welterweight to fight Andre Fiallo. So now he's going back down his weight class, and obviously now he's fighting Nicholas Mota, who in his last fight lost against Jim Miller. Got the contract over Joseph Lowry. Joseph Lowry, sorry. Got the contract over him, winning that fight. Then I saw enough in him to get the contract, and obviously got knocked out by Jim Miller in his debut inside the UFC. Kevin Van as I talked about, stepped inside the UFC on short notice, getting that fight against Andre Fiallo, and obviously getting finished as well. These two actually were meant to schedule to fight inside the UFC, but the reason it was cancelled was due to injury. So maybe he didn't step in. Well, he did step in short notice to fight Andre Fiallo, right? But it wasn't signed on the short notice.
No. Well, yeah. He was not. They didn't sign him before the Fialho fight. When
Yeah.
Fialho needed an opponent, that's when they signed him.
Yeah. So they were scheduled to fight, and now they're running it down the line. This one's a tough matchup. If you look at Mota, his 3 of his 4 losses, he's been finished. One of them by and obviously by TKO, and one by submission. So every loss, he's been finished, and that's concerning to me. And if you look at the other side, a lot of submission wins for Cameron Van Camp.
Yeah, to me, you just look at their UFC debuts. What happens? So Nicholas Mota, he kind of gets hit with a lot of leg kicks by Jim Miller, and then he gets knocked out by Jim Miller. Yeah, Jim Miller, the guy who's not too far from retirement, who's known more as a submission artist. I think Cameron Van Camp has all the power to knock out Mota, and I'll say the same. I think Mota has all the power to knock out Van Camp. I think it's probably about who lands first in this one. Van Camp in his UFC debut, he had Fialho on wobbly legs, and people were super high on Fialho at the time. And Fialho fires back, gets a knockout of his own, but I don't think Van Camp got the credit for hurting Fialho like that. So I will side with Van Camp here. I also believe he's got a jiu-jitsu advantage here if he's to use it. He's got 3 submission wins before his UFC debut, so it's on the table. But I will side with Van Camp because it's such a concern if Jim Miller's putting your lights out like that.
Yeah, I got to agree. Cameron Van Camp, obviously, in his last fight, didn't go his way against Andre Fialho, but now stepping down to his natural weight. So now it gets a better matchup. I'm going to say a plus 180 underdog for Cameron Van Camp.
Yeah, I think I don't think Mota has any business being this big of a favorite. He beat a lot of bums on the regional circuit, let's be honest. And on the contender series, he didn't look all that impressive. And yeah, Jim Miller knocking you out, not a good look.
Absolutely agree. Well, that was the first fight of the evening, so that makes us to the end of this episode, basically. The end of this event that we talking about. And obviously a very, very good event, as you'll see there top to bottom. We've got some interesting fights. I'm very excited to see what happens this week. And obviously the main event, that is what we're all attracted to.
Yeah, I just hope Sadiq Youssef gets booked against somebody. Let's see who's in the mix there.
Yeah, obviously very, very short notice. So let's see what the UFC can do within the time frame they have. They're very good at, obviously we've seen on last week, they're very good at getting short notice fights. They're very, very good of organising, getting them done. But yeah, we've got a very good weekend. We've also got a contender series tonight. Just want to see if you want to touch up about that. Any prospects that you like?
Yeah, I like Fareed Bashrat in that main event. He was supposed to fight weeks ago, and he's undefeated just like his brother. Similar style. I think he gets himself a first round knockout there on the contender series. I also really like Trevor Peek on this card. He's one of the typical first round knockout guys that Dana White likes. I think he gets a knockout as an underdog there. I also am a fan of Bruna Brazil. I think she's got a fun style, but for me, an interesting story here is Mario Souza. This guy's fought the contender series twice, lost twice, but the UFC likes him so much they're bringing him back the third time to see if he can still cut his teeth into the UFC.
You got to say it's make or break time now for Mario Souza. If he loses this one, surely, and you see there a plus 400 underdog.
Yeah, he's fighting a Russian killer in Ikram Aliskerov, but on the contender series, we see these big underdogs win all the time. Yeah,
you can't really look at these underdogs, the odds, because you haven't really got much knowledge of them coming inside the UFC or the contender series. So, to be honest, the odds don't really matter that much. Anything can happen.
Yeah, 100%. That's what makes the contender special. The lack of knowledge we have about these fighters. We learn so much every time we watch the show. For some guys, there might only be 1 or 2 fights of like tape we have on them. So it's a discovery process. All right, I gotta dip now.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar is off, and I don't know why my screen went like that. That is phenomenal. But yeah, that is an episode of the MMA.Unhinged podcast, March Silva MMA show. Thank you all for listening. Been an absolute pleasure. Make sure you catch us Same time next week, 6:15 British Summer Time, and usually Oscar's here to correct me, but if I believe I'm correct, 12:15 Central Time. So make sure you check us all next week. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed the fights this weekend. We've got some really good ones, so make sure you check them out, and obviously make sure you come back to us next week. Thank you all for joining us. See you all next week, and a very goodbye.